Introduce yourself first.
Sunt Ovidiu. I was born in Romania, moved to Canada in '99. Was there for 22, 23 years, and moved back to Russia last year.
All right.
Yeah.
I'm Alex. I'm the gym owner here.
Awesome.
Your lovely host.
Nice to meet you.
All right. So, tell us what you do.
So I'm a peak performance coach.
Peak performance.
Peak performance. So what that means, it means that I'm working with people, business owners who want to take their performance to the next level, and I help them with the mindset, with taking action, beating procrastination, fixing up their energy so they can go towards their goals and achieve their dreams. In short.
Well, that's basically what we do as well, just on the fitness side.
Exactly.
But it's very similar because we first we identify objectives and then we try to help people like reach them,
100%. And the body and the mind, they're the same thing, right? It's important to have a strong mindset and a strong body to actually handle the goals that you're setting for yourself.
Yeah, totally agreed. How do you handle like a person who comes is totally new to coaching, but wants to improve his lifestyle and professional life? Walk me through it. How do you handle it?
So the first thing is to really meet the person where they're at and to understand their aspirations, their goals, what's blocking them. So the first thing is getting an idea what's their vision of themselves, of their life, or specifically their job, the gym, whatever it is that they want to make progress in. The next thing is we also want to see where they're at right now. So what's the situation? Like what's the problem? How is life right now? And then the next thing is figuring out what's blocking them. There's a lot of things blocking us. There's a lot of challenges, but what are the top 1 or 2 pain points that they haven't been able to handle on their own and they need some help with? And we want to make sure that they're really real and they're introspective and they connect their emotions and who they are as a person, and they really figure out what is it they actually really want, and that gives them the energy and the motivation to actually change. And then we start from the very start. There's different people have challenges with different things. Some people are not, they think they lack motivation. Some people, they procrastinate. Some people don't have the energy or the health to sustain the big goals.
Yeah.
Some people are burned out. So it depends on the person, and we meet the person where they're at, and we start with one step, then we take the next one, and so on. But having a motivating, big, inspirational goal that has a strong why, you have a strong motivation for why, what you want to achieve it, is very, very important. You need a target to go towards so that you have the energy and motivation, but also so that you know when you're off track. If you don't have a goal, how do you know you're going in the right direction? Yeah,
totally agreed. Well, it's funny because we have almost the same process here in the gym,
Yeah.
Somebody new comes, and the first thing we ask them is what's your objective, and they don't know, right? That's the interesting part. They know they want to lose weight or something, but they don't know the real why. That's really important to them, and finding that why is half of the problem is solved.
100%. It's not something we've been really taught to think about, either in school or our parents. I'm not saying everyone, but for a lot of people. Oftentimes, when I was a kid, and I would ask the teacher, why are we doing this? It doesn't matter, just do it.
Yeah.
It's so we didn't learn to do it.
Yeah, and we were stricken down if we asked why.
Exactly.
Because then the teacher would be in an awkward position because they didn't know why, right?
Exactly. So
it's just do it because I tell you so. Just shut up already. And
exactly. And so we didn't train that question of asking why. Why? I don't know. Why is the sun this way? Or why do I want to do this? Which is a lot more important.
Yeah, but that's curiosity, right?
Exactly. And that really drives growth, because if you're curious, you learn, you grow, you apply, you try, you fail, you repeat, you do better, and you get closer to the goal. So, that's super important.
That's super important. And you're right. We're we're conditioned from like when we were young. Stop asking so many questions, man. You're driving me crazy. Kids, shut up already.
And it's really like once you decide to make a change, it starts with awareness, like becoming aware of like, okay, like what is not working. First of all, you have to become aware that something is not working, and that's usually maybe there's a lot of pain in your life, like where something is really causing you to not feel good, and it forces you like, okay, like this thing is like I need to change it. Or maybe you see someone who inspires you, and you're watching a podcast like this one, or you go to a gym and you see like all these fit people and they're lifting crazy weights, and you're like, whoa, and that inspires you to like ask like, okay, cool, like how can I get that like I want that. And it's funny because we were talking about how our approaches to coaching are very similar, and it's the same system, like man, like it's goal setting and personal development and growth as a human. There's now a lot of research and science which shows like, hey, like this is the way we do it. Like we're all human, we all share the same biology, we all have the same evolution. So there's certain things that work for everyone. So that's the science. Like there's certain steps. You set a goal, you figure out the why, you create a strategy and a plan, and then you start executing on that. And then it's like, then it gets a little bit more complex. Okay, well, what do you need? You need energy. Do you need to overcome your fear? But it's set the goal, figure out the why, have a strong mindset, and then create the plan and then execute.
Yeah.
And the execution is the hardest thing. And then like how you do it, that's the art. And it depends on the person, how you approach that system of steps.
Let's take it step by step.
Yeah.
Let's like zoom in on every step. So basically, let's say the client is here, you already spoke to them, they identified the objective. You didn't tell them the objective, right?
Exactly,
but you asked the right questions, and then they have the clear picture in their minds, right?
Correct.
Next step, let's zoom in on it. What do you do with them?
So the next step is actually let's dive a little bit deeper in the first step.
All right.
So it's super important. There's a quote that goes like, clarity is power. It's so important to be clear on your goal and your vision. So important. Most people, oftentimes they don't spend enough time like thinking about what they want, and they definitely don't spend enough time thinking about like what they actually really want.
Yeah.
A very good example is I used to be a personal trainer for about 3 years. So I used to work in finance. I hit rock bottom in a lot of areas of my life, and I decided to make a change, traveling around the world, went on a self-development journey, and just really on a journey to understand myself and just how my mind works. Because like something wasn't working, I was procrastinating, I was breaking my promises, and I just didn't have a handle over myself. I would say I would do something and I wouldn't do it. So I'm like, okay, cool, like how do I handle this? Started learning podcasts, courses, and eventually I became a personal trainer. And what I realized was people came in and same as me, like, hey, like I want to have a six-pack. And then I would ask them like, well, why is that important? Is that really what you want? And after asking that question a few times, it turned out that people actually, they don't really care about the six-pack. They care about the confidence that they think they will have, which will allow them to take action in their lives and to like maybe be more assertive in their job and have more energy. So the apparent first goal is sometimes not the real goal. And
it's very superficial.
Exactly. You want to find out kind of a combination of like why is that important, and figure out like all the aspects of it. To make sure that you're chasing the right thing and you're consciously choosing it. Yeah.
One more thing I do with my clients. So they say that, for example, they want the six-pack. I ask them why, and then they're like in a tough spot, because they have to think about it. They have to justify it to themselves, and it's funny to watch them do this.
Yeah.
The secret to the question of why is ask it and then shut up, and just let their minds work, and then they'll give you an answer. Actually, they'll give themselves an answer, right?
Yeah.
And that answer is either satisfying for them or unsatisfying.
Yeah.
That's when they realize if it's important or not. But then I asked them, how will you feel when this goal is achieved? And this is like an exercise in visualization.
Correct.
And if it's really important to them, that's when you see them click into the goal. Because they say, well, I will feel very good in my own skin. And it's like you can see in their eyes that it becomes
their
so
body
important,
language changes, their face changes.
Exactly. And that's when they internalize the goal. That's when I know I hit jackpot, like this is a real goal, this is really important for them. If this doesn't happen, I usually backtrack and just ask them, maybe this is not the right goal for you. Maybe this is like a borrowed goal, you see it in a magazine or something. Let's continue the discussion. Like, tell me something else that's important for you,
That's a very good point. Like, 'cause sometimes we internalize goals given to us by society, by parents, like pressure, whichever way we came to it. And that's how I got into a really bad spot in my life where kind of like, so my goal as a kid, as every kid, was to become an astronaut. Well, half the other kids wanted to become lawyers. So like, that was my goal. And like, I kind of gave up on it because I didn't think it was possible. I didn't have people around me that were encouraging or that had achieved that. So I kind of took the stand, okay, I'm gonna just become the best student, I'm gonna get the best job. Ended up with one of the best jobs from my university. I worked in finance for a few years, and I became really unhappy and unfulfilled and depressed. Like I wasn't working to my potential, and what it was I was just not happy about who I was becoming in that job.
Yeah.
And the big step in realization, it took some time, was like, hey, this was not something I consciously chose. It was kind of like a goal given to me
by society.
Exactly. It was a traditional Romanian, like, okay, just be the best student, like work really, really hard and get the best job. And was that something I wanted? Like, not necessarily.
Yeah, I feel you. It's funny because it was actually the same for me. With finance, with the best job possible, but it wasn't my chosen career, It was something that I saw like the ideal because somebody in my family was
exactly, yeah.
And after a few years of burning out, of going all the way, and I realized that it's not for me. So I went to university for finance. I got a really good job in finance, and then I ended up being a coach in fitness, which is like polar opposites,
Sounds like we have very similar backgrounds, but I think that's the experience for a lot of people, and I think it takes courage, awareness, luck, a whole bunch of things to come to a realization.
Yeah, so true.
That like, this is not a job or a life that's making me happy.
Well, I think,
and being able to make the change.
Yeah, I think that most people know this, like deep inside.
Yeah.
But to actually make a choice to change this, that's when you need courage. That's when you need a coach maybe, or some support from family members or something, And I'd say that most people, I think, they're not in the place they should be or they want to be. And also for me personally, it wasn't that I didn't like finance, because I like maths. It was an interesting job and everything, but I liked fitness for myself, and somewhere irrationally I knew that I wanted to help people. I couldn't do it in finance very much because I was working with like what should I call them, like people who were already rich. They didn't need any help from me, but in fitness I found the perfect way to really make an impact in people's lives, and that's what drives me basically. That's the number one reason. Like before I built this gym, I was helping people, like my colleagues from work, like.
Yeah, same here.
Yeah, we were like going to the park and working out. I moved to Brașov where nobody knew about CrossFit, which I learned in Bucharest, and I was like taking them to the park after work and doing workouts and stuff, and not for money or something, but like just to help them out. That's when I realized this is what really drives me. This is my goal. This is what I should focus on, But then, once I got this straightened out, the problem was execution. Let's talk about that. What do you think?
Yeah, words are cheap. Execution is everything. And that's really when it's important to, first you want to start setting goals and have a vision that inspires you, but then the execution is really, it shows you who you really are. That's when you start facing the challenges.
Yeah.
And that's when you, if you don't have a good foundation there, you got to work on it. I think there's a phrase in English that says something along the lines, when the tide goes out, you see who's swimming naked. And it's so true because, and
yeah, that's so true.
That's one of the reasons, like, I was scared to leave my finance job. Like, I hated it. And I knew I had to make a move, and I kept procrastinating because I didn't have the confidence in myself that I could execute and accomplish and follow through on what needed to be done in this very uncertain, because I had no idea what I wanted to do.
Yeah, that's the scary part. I remember that feeling so well.
And it was like what helped me was I did a couple of things, and actually like podcasts helped me a lot because I realized like, man, I need to model people. I need to look at success stories and basically brainwash myself that it's possible, because my internal self-talk was such that you can't do this, you have never done that, you're breaking your promise to yourself, you procrastinate, like all this stuff, you don't have courage, you're shy, like just stay in this job, which I knew, and it was hard, and I was working 80-90 hours a week, and like I was working really hard, but I wasn't feeling like I was making progress as a human being. And I think the execution part of that is, there's a good quote by this guy, Tony Robbins, who's an expert in the field, and it's something that success is 80% psychology or mindset and 20% strategy. So when you execute, your mindset and your state of like how you're feeling is so important, and then the strategy is much easier to execute on if you're in the right mindset.
Yeah, but that's so hard to just like put yourself into. You gotta really brainwash yourself. You said it. You hit the nail on the head. You know, because when you're in a comfortable spot, right? You're in a day job. You're making money. It's okay. You can just go on doing this for the rest of your life, and most people actually do it.
Mm-hmm.
But if you want to really like do the thing that makes you happy in life and achieve your potential, there's a moment where you're gonna be between worlds. Mm-hmm. You know, you gotta quit your day job, right? And you're gonna be in a transition period between your day job and your new job. If you're lucky, you can kind of overlap them, but if you're working 80-90 hours a week, like you said, there's not really much leeway, right, between them.
Yeah, there's a transition period. So like how I did it, like I could have just quit right away. That was one option, but I was too scared and I didn't have the finance. So I was like, okay, cool, let's do this a little bit smart.
Yeah, and this is what I think most people would be in this spot, right?
And for me, it was interesting. A lot of people would kind of focus on like getting another job and jumping into one thing, but I really had no idea what I wanted to do. And the biggest thing that was stopping me was not necessarily that, it was like the confidence in myself. So what I did was like, I need to fix myself up. I need to be confident in my ability as a man before I leave this job. And looking back at it, I think I would do it differently. I would focus more on the goal and the vision, because that gives you the drive to change the mindset.
Yeah.
But for me, like, that was like the mindset. I just didn't believe in myself, and I also didn't have the energy. Like, even if I knew what I wanted to do, I didn't feel I had the energy to execute that thing. Like, my back was hurting. I was like sleeping 3-4 hours a night. I was depressed, like all this stuff, and I just like, I just need to start somewhere. And I went back to the gym, and I still was working out like a little bit, and I was doing deadlifting after working 80 to 90 hours a week in a chair, and I injured my back really badly.
Yeah.
And for 2 months I could barely move. So I'm like, okay, like that was kind of like the straw that broke the camel's back. And I just literally. And basically I'm like, okay, like I need to feel proud of myself again. Like I just couldn't move. I was like 26, and maybe, I don't know if I should share this, but like as a podcast,
yeah, go for it.
And just to be vulnerable, like I was at a party, I met this like super awesome girl, and one thing led to another, and that's the day like I was trying to put my shoe on, and I bent over and I tried to put my shoe on, and I couldn't move. So that night, like I was sharing the bed with her, and I'm like, I can't move. Can you just give me a massage? And it was like, as like a male, like 28 years old, like that really hit my ego, and it kind of woke me up. It was like, whoa, like that was very painful. It was very, at the time, embarrassing, and there's a lot of shame in it. And I'm like, okay, like I need to make a change. Like all the physiotherapists I went to, nothing worked. So I set a goal, like, okay, I made a decision. And I think that's the moment change happens. When you make a decision, and a decision means, if you look at the Latin roots of the word, it means to cut off any other possibility. So making a decision was like, I'm gonna fix up my life. And I signed up, I wanted to commit to it. Like never leave the site of a decision without taking an action towards it and committing yourself to it. So for me, I made that decision, and I'm like, okay, how do I commit to myself to like getting in good shape and taking control back of my mind, my body? I signed up for a marathon, and I couldn't walk. Like I was taking Uber. Thanks God Uber came around. I was taking Uber to work, and I was wearing like some bandages,
kidney belt,
like a kidney belt at work, because I had to like sit for 12 hours.
You were like an old man,
dude. I felt like an old man, and basically like, okay, I went to the gym. I walked on the treadmill for like half a kilometer, and I was sweating. And I used to be fit before, and I was like, wow. And like, okay, next day a little bit more. And in 8 months, I ran a marathon, 3 hours, 30 minutes. And it was one of the hardest things I've done, but it was so fulfilling to just see the consistent progression. And the mindset was not like I can't do it, I've never done this, but it was just like the next step. Okay, I have a plan, just get up at 5 a.m., put the music on, and I was like running before my mind actually woke up and started making excuses.
I think you were lucky, to tell it straight, because most people, they will never hit rock bottom the way you did. You know what I mean? And it's kind of dangerous, because if you hit rock bottom and you're not mentally strong, then you're gonna stay there, or you're gonna go even lower. I don't know, but the fact that you hit rock bottom, it woke you up, it gave you the motivation, and that's when basically you took action, and it was smooth sailing from then on.
You have a good point there. I think it's in a way, yes, I was lucky, because people often change only when they hit a threshold of too much pain.
Yeah, exactly. The straw that broke the camel's back.
Like if you're like in the middle, you're not gonna make a change. So there needs to be it needs to be a bit of an extreme. Like either like there's so much pain where you can't take anymore, you want to make a change. And for me, like man, like I take pain like well. That's why I do endurance racing. Like I was just like, it took a few wake up calls. It wasn't just like the broken back thing. It was like I got an anxiety attack from drinking too much Red Bull and coffee. Like I was in Vegas, and I was so tired from working so much that like the only way I could stay awake and party was like just chugging Red Bull and coffee, and like my heart started just being like crazy. And that was another thing. Like I went to a doctor, and he's like, okay, well, you're depressed, take these pills. I'm like, fuck. I guess
that's fine.
Can we swear here?
It's
like, fuck these pills. Like you're not gonna send me to do meditation or like to journal, like to actually grow and deal with the source. Just take some pills. And like I knew that wasn't the thing. Maybe looking back, like I should have taken the pills to give me a boost and continue working on myself.
Yeah, well, what if you had somebody like a brother or a coach or something that would have told you, hey man, this is where you're heading. You can either wait and stay in your comfort zone and reach the inevitable rock bottom and be in a world of pain, mentally and physically, or you can just trust me and take action now. What if this is an exercise of imagination? Think about it just a second, and you can either trust the guy and follow his advice, or you can continue on your own. Do you think that if you trusted the guy and took his word for it, you would have enough motivation to reach, to be where you are now, basically? Do you understand?
100%. So I think the key word is if. I think that trust factor is very important, and especially for me, like I didn't have that person. I was the oldest brother, and like I didn't have older friends or old relatives or family, and so I always felt like I was on my own. And I think if I had someone who I trusted and they made me that offer, 100%, 100%. And I kind of created that for myself artificially. I projected myself in 10 years, and I kind of had a conversation with that person, and like I imagined myself basically going at the level that I was at now at 10 years, and like I wouldn't have been happy, right? So I also had a conversation with like kind of my kid version of myself when I was like 4 years old, and I meant like this is not who I wanted to be. So that was kind of like a lot of force, and then I realized like, man, I need mentors and coaches. And at that level in time, my mindset wasn't like I'm gonna hire someone. I had a shit ton of money. I was working in finance. I was making a lot of money, and I got really good at spending it, but like on alcohol and ways to like deal with the stress and kind of ignoring it.
Yeah.
So for me, like the first step was like also I don't know if it's a Romanian mindset, but it's definitely a mindset in my family of just doing stuff on your own and saving money. So for me, it was like, okay, cool. Like how can I help myself? That's free. So I went on YouTube, and there was all these motivational videos. So that's how I started just listening to that, and I found out about podcasts. I started listening to those, and over again, I saw that like, hey, there's people doing amazing freaking things, and it inspired me. So it helped me to get the motivation and to start making changes. And one thing led to another, and eventually, like in 2016, like I was reading this book, and I came to a very, very key realization. And I think this is where having a coach or joining like a group program is so important, and it's the distinction between knowledge and applied knowledge. Like all of us are very smart, a lot of us have read a lot of stuff, we know what to do.
Yeah. Like
even if you haven't read anything, if you didn't go to university or even high school, like you know internally what you need to do, but you don't do it.
Yeah, that's
the knowledge,
execution. Yeah.
You don't have the execution. And I was reading this book by this guy Tony Robbins, and I was highlighting like 50% of it. And after like reading half the book, I'm like, okay, like what the fuck am I doing? Like I'm highlighting everything, which means like it's inspiring me and I want to use it. But I know based on past experience, I actually will not, I'm going to put this back on the shelf. Maybe I'm not even going to finish the book, and I'm not going to make a change because there's too much stuff. Like I've highlighted all of it. I need some help. So I'm like, okay, I'm sure this guy has like some program online. And I found a program that was like basically the application for the book, and it was like $300. 300. But I was so motivated. I was actually traveling through the world, and I just bought the program, and I'm like, screw it. I came back to Romania. I locked myself into my grandma's like room, and I was just doing this program. Like I treated it like it was my job. And one thing led to another. I went to one of the seminars, and I started spending a lot more money, but the money was being spent to actually apply that stuff and to surround myself with people and a community that thought the same way. And I could learn from them, I could support them, they could support me back, and I think that's super important. Just your community, like having a coach and having a system is important, but the execution is made a lot easier when there's other people who are supporting you, and especially seeing other people who are succeeding, who maybe just they're one step ahead of you, or maybe they're 10 steps ahead of you, and you see them succeeding, and that gives you the belief in yourself, you internalize that.
Yeah.
And it's like, hey, like they can do it, I can do it. And also your behavior starts to change. Like if you hang out with people who are really fit and they make fitness a priority, most likely your days and your nights will look different than if your group of friends is a group of friends who are like just partying all the time.
Yeah.
Because one group is like, hey, it's like, it's 9 o'clock, I'm a grandpa, and like I've got 5 a.m. Workout tomorrow. Okay, cool, see you tomorrow at 5 a.m., have a good sleep. Whereas it's like, it's 9 a.m., like you get a call like, hey, let's go out.
Yeah.
And then you're up until 5 a.m. and you're running to the people who are going to the gym.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's, because I've thought about this a lot, and I've had that group of friends who were like the partier dudes and gals, and they helped me a lot. Like when I was like, in like kind of like the dark night of the soul back in 2012, 2013, if I didn't have those friends, I don't know like what I would have done, but they helped me a lot to like feel happy and to have support. But now that I'm moving on and I'm growing, some people are changing as well. Some people are staying more or less like that, and it's like, well, I feel sometimes weird about talking about like my personal growth and that stuff and my transformation, because I don't want to make them feel bad, and I feel maybe they're gonna judge me.
Yeah.
And that stuff, like, it's self-made stuff.
Yeah,
it's in your head,
yeah.
right? I mean, maybe subconsciously people, when they see someone succeed, maybe like you don't know what they're thinking, but there's many possible things they could be thinking. They could be thinking like, hey, like this guy's inspiring me and I want to do that. Or maybe they start feeling worse about themselves because they're comparing themselves to you. And in that case, like it's not up to you to like lower yourself, like lower your goals and your vision and putting a damper on who you are as a being. But you need to be more of yourself and like be the best version, hoping that that energy is going to come across and it's going to inspire as many people as possible. You can't inspire everyone and it's not your job.
Yeah.
But never hold yourself back because what you think people think of you, family, co-workers, all that stuff, right? Because in that way, especially if they're not who they want to be, like you can't help them that way. You got to like lead the example and show that it's possible. And that's kind of like the calculus when I left my job in finance. Like I knew at least half the people there were not happy at all. They're like miserable. So I figured out like, hey man, like if I leave and I become successful, like my dream was to find a job or create a job where I'm happy and fulfill what I'm doing. I'm helping people in the world. I'm growing and I'm working my passion and it allows me the financial, the time and the location autonomy or freedom to work from wherever I want, with whoever I want, like how much I want and all this stuff.
Yeah.
And if I could do that for myself, then other people would see it and could also, hey, maybe I can do that. And I feel like I'm very close to that point where I've kind of reached that vision.
Yeah, man, it's really inspiring.
There's a quote, like there's this motivation video that like I probably listened like 150 times, like get me going. And it was a Henry Thoreau quote that says that most men or people live lives of quiet desperation. Like they don't believe in themselves, but they don't tell anyone. They don't ask for help because they think there's a societal standard that we need to be perfect and we need to know what we do, and like telling other people is a show of weakness. I don't know about women, but like that's definitely for men.
Yeah, that's an ego thing, you know.
Yeah.
You don't want to show somebody else that you're miserable. You want to show them that you're really good and
that's
really
the whole
successful.
Facebook, Instagram.
Exactly.
Like you're just seeing the best of people. You don't see behind. And I think that's most valuable, especially like in relationships and especially in a coaching relationship, is to show them the journey and to be vulnerable and show like, hey, like I'm human too, and like actually like I'm still dealing with procrastination, with burnout, but now I've developed a mindset of like, okay, cool, like it's not the first time, like I know what to do and like let me just start again.
Yeah.
So, like I think one of the biggest decisions you can make and to really help yourself set up for success and to make because this journey is going to be insanely hard.
Yeah.
Becoming the best version of yourself, if you have a dream and you go after it, it's not going to be easy, whether it's a small one or a big one. And as humans, our environment really shapes us. And there's this concept of environmental design. So you want to, as humans, we respond to the environment, right? So like we're like a Pac-Man who's like eating up like information from around us and reality, and then who we become is a result of that. So environmental design is the idea of like you make a decision to shape and change the environment such that it supports your goals and who you want to become. And then after you shape the environment starts automatically shaping you. So going to a gym where everyone's like motivated and driven and focusing on growth and this kind of stuff, it's going to be much easier to become fit because you're surrounded by these people, and that's just the standard. And as humans, we want to be accepted, and it's like a natural drive. We want to be accepted and we want to be part of the community. So we start to change our behavior, our mentality, our emotions to be like that. So that's a very important decision. Do you start working do you take a job at a fast food place, or do you take a job at a gym?
Yeah. Like
your life's going to start drifting different parts. Like no matter how strong your discipline is, if you're surrounded by like tasty food the whole day, you're trying to start eating a little bit, and over time that compounds.
And also, like I know this is taboo, but if you're surrounded by fat people, it's gonna make it easier for you to be like that, you know?
Because you're copying. You're also like subconsciously you're copying the habits.
You see, like, hey, everybody's like this, so it's fine.
I mean, like
But on the flip side, you know, you go to a gym, like you said, and everybody's fit, and you just start drifting that way, like, naturally.
It's way more effortless, and I think the best example of this is it's important to understand how our minds work, how our biology works, because no one gave us a manual to, like, hey, here's the manual to your brain.
Yeah.
Grade 1, grade 5.
Well,
physics, brain psychology, and goal setting. Like, no, that's not what we're learning.
Man, actually, I find it interesting you say that, because I find myself giving people the recipe to their own biochemistry when I talk to them, like my clients, you know?
Yeah.
Because they don't know what the hell is going on in their heads. It's all chemistry, like, not most of it, and I know it because I read it about it. I experienced it, and I can body hack my brain. So I can just tell people this, you know. And the moment they hear it, they realize it, and then it becomes so much clearer what they have to do. I know this is ambiguous right now, but it applies also in your field.
It applies in all fields. Like, as I said before, like, there's a quote there's a mantra: work with your biology, not against it.
Yeah.
Like,
but if you're aware of your biology, then
and exactly, like, there's certain basic things that all of us as humans we need to do to function at our optimal best. Like, get enough sleep, 7 to 8 hours, whatever makes you feel great. Work out and move. Doesn't have to be the gym. Could be hiking, could be swimming, whatever. Social support, good nutrition, hydration, some sort of, like, breathing practice. Consciously practicing and feeling positive emotions, especially gratitude, is very, very important.
Yeah.
And also immersing ourselves in nature. These are things that, through our, like, millions of years of evolution, like, that's when we function best, when we have these things in place. And if you try to skip and shortcut this stuff, you're not running the car the way it's supposed to run. Like, you haven't read the manual, right? So I think just having that awareness of it allows you to function the best way you can.
Yeah, so this is basically what a coach does, right? Is give you the roadmap, and then sustain, like, fuel your motivation all along. I think this is what it really boils down to, you know? Because people they think about coaching like, it costs money. I can either, like, get a coach and like, that's the easy way, just pay somebody and they tell me, or I can do the hard way, manly way, do it yourself, you know? And it's so much harder to do it yourself, and it's like you're shooting yourself in the foot on day one, you know?
Yeah.
That's the way I see it. If you have a choice between a coach and do it yourself, then just pay the goddamn man, you know?
And by the way, just, like, for anyone, like, watching this, like, I know, like, focusing a lot on coaching, and it's like, we're not trying to, like, market this to you or, like, try to convince you of it, but we live this stuff. Like, we have our own coaches. Like, when something is important for me, I don't waste my time like trying to figure stuff on my own. If it's really important, I grab a book, I watch a podcast where I learn a little bit about the topic, and then based on that information, I get a coach.
Yeah.
Because in the end, like, what that does, like, there's so many benefits to it, but, like, one of the most important things is we all have big goals, and it's about, like, compressing decades into months. Like, buying a book or having a coach is like learning from someone else. It doesn't necessarily have to be a coach, but you need to, like, figure out, like, how other people have done it. Like, you're not the first one, you're not reinventing the wheel.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
Don't reinvent the wheel.
Don't reinvent the wheel.
Like, take something that's proven to work and just copy it and make it your own. Like, see how, like, it won't work exactly the same for you, but start practicing and then make it your own and see what works. But don't waste your time trying this stuff that's already been done, and spend your time doing new things that no one has ever done. That's like the fun and the exploration, right?
Yeah, I totally agree with this. When I need assistance, when I'm doing something new, I like to, like, dabble a bit in it. Like, you asked me about Python because you saw the book on Python, right?
I didn't know you're, like, learning how to program.
Yeah, because I'm a math guy, you know, so I like this stuff. I did it as a hobby, but I did it so that I work with IT stuff a lot. I have lots of programs and stuff that I need to work with. Python doesn't really help me with anything, but it it allows you to see how a computer works, basically. You know, like programming is a language between a human and a computer. It's how you talk to the computer, how the computer understands you, right? So we're speaking English right now because you understand English, I understand English, right? But a computer doesn't speak English. So Python is one of the languages. There are many, but basically, I didn't learn Python to like build a program and then sell it or something. I just build it so I know what it looks like to get the basics. But then when I need something done, I go to a professional. I pay them what it's worth. I pay them extra so they do a really good job. And then with the time it takes, it would have taken me to do that on my own, which would have been a lot longer, you know. I can focus on something that's way more productive for me.
That's a very good point.
With marketing, it goes the same because we had this discussion.
Yeah.
Right. I like to learn new things, right? So I can like gain new capabilities and ways of thinking, but I don't want to become a marketing expert. As a business owner, I have to know a little bit about it, right? But when I need something done,
you just gotta know enough to be dangerous.
Yeah, that sounds cool, but okay, yeah, that sounds pretty cool. But practically, when I speak to a marketing expert, I need to speak their language.
Exactly.
You know, so yeah, I need to know a little bit about it, so they don't treat me like an idiot. You know. So, and also to help them achieve their potential as an expert, I need to tell them what I need.
Exactly. You need to like be that clarity of like being able to explain, to also understand their capabilities and what they can do, like on a big picture level.
Yeah.
And to be able to explain your vision to them such that they can clearly follow it. Like it's so important because we all think differently, and what you're thinking might be very different from what they are thinking about the same thing.
Yeah, and also what you're saying. You know? Like I can tell you something now, but think something different in my head, and without realizing it, like there's a discrepancy, you know, between what I'm thinking and what I'm saying. This is like a thing, you know, it's been proven.
100%, yeah.
Yeah, but if you're on the same page with somebody, then it's much easier to collaborate, and the end result is going to be much better. But the really important thing I want to say about this is, like an advice to somebody who wants to do something. If you hire an expert, you give them the freedom to do their thing. They're gonna deliver something really good, and you gain the time and the energy to focus on something else.
100%. It's like basic economic theory.
Yeah,
like you
exactly. It's about resources, you know.
Yeah, like you want to maximize the resources.
Yeah. And
like if you're really good at something, like a very good example is like America is really good at growing corn, like and Saudi Arabia is really good at making like oil.
Yeah.
So you want to, in a way, like assuming a world where like there's trust and
like globalization,
harmony, globalization, but you want like, if you're able to trust the other person is going to do their thing, you focus on growing corn, and the other person focuses on creating digging up oil.
Yeah.
And then you maximize and you trade, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And it's the same concept in business. Like a very powerful question from actually a book of the same name is who, not how. Like anytime you have a goal and a vision and you want to accomplish it, the first question to ask is not how do I do it, it's who can help me with this and would love doing it and is good at it.
Yeah.
And I trust.
Yeah, and that's a really tough question to ask because the answer is not going to be self-evident, you know. You got to find the person.
It takes a lot of work, it takes creativity, and it also, I think it's just letting go of that mindset of like I need to do everything by myself and also not trusting other people.
Yeah.
And that is, I see it's a lot easier for like in the American culture. It's not like they're doing it, but they're a little bit more open to that. Whereas like in Eastern Europe, like we just want to do stuff on our own.
Yeah, it's a question of trust. I think you hit the spot there. We in Eastern Europe, we're very distrustful of each other because of historical
for good reason. And
for good reason, exactly.
We're not judging anyone, but it's just
but this is like a cultural thing, you know. Right. And it's the way they've been brought up and trusting people and helping people, and I think they're much better for it than we are, you know.
I mean, for good reason. They didn't deal with communism. They've never been invaded. You mentioned something about like, I think learning Python to understand how to communicate with the computer.
Yeah.
And actually, neuroscience, it kind of does the same. Like how do you use your brain to communicate with yourself? And it's really like a problem. It's a good metaphor compared to computer. Like we don't know how our brain works. Like we don't necessarily know how to reprogram it, that's what it is, right? Like if you have certain habits, certain things you want to change to the mindsets, it's the idea like that. I found like this metaphor of like reprogramming it, and that takes time because the computer, you can program it pretty easy. You type in a command and it just changes the physical nature of it.
Yeah.
Like it changes the
I know what you mean.
or whatever. It's instant. As a human, we're a biological mechanism in a way, and it takes a lot of repetition to change, but you can accelerate that. Like one of the things you can accelerate is like coaches and getting the right strategies, being in the right environment, but it's literally just like putting in enough repetitions where the biological, the tissue, like your neural system changes, like your thoughts, your emotions, your habits, they're not these like intangible cloud invisible things. Like no, they're physical matter that is your nervous system. So every time you do a repetition, the brain is plastic and it changes a little bit. So how do you accelerate that? It's like putting in the reps, but also doing with a lot of intensity. And that's where like consistency is important. Having a coach, having a community, setting a goal, tracking it, staying motivated helps. But then the level of how hard you go into it and the emotional energy you bring to it is very important, because when something happens and there's a strong emotional experience attached to it, the brain pays attention and remembers it better. That's where like traumatic events in our life or very happy events in our life, peak experiences, we remember those a lot more because the brain just releases some hormones that tells your brain like, hey, dude,
that's important.
Whatever's happening right here, like this is making you really happy, it helps your chance of survival, or this is like really bad right now, like we gotta avoid this in the future.
Yeah.
And then like automatically your habits have changed, your personality, maybe your habits have changed forever just by one thing. So how you apply this towards learning and growth is to make sure that when you come to a gym or you're reading the book or you're going to work, you're not focusing only on the eventual goal when you're down the line, but you also like focus on the emotions you want to feel in the moment. Like, hey, I'm going to the gym and I'm feeling like happy and vital, and adding that emotion to it, doing it consciously, like taking up the level and consciously choosing to feel that way will improve your experience and will accelerate the growth and the learning.
I agree with this. I can't tell you how much I agree with this. More than 100%. And I just want to like add to this, because it's so freaking hard on a day-to-day, routine day-to-day, I don't know, like trend, to step outside of yourself and realize that it's like the conscious mind and the unconscious mind. You know, and you have control over the conscious mind if you step outside of yourself and you realize, okay, today I have these are my goals, these are my challenges. I shouldn't be on autopilot. Autopilot is like it's not a good place to be, and to do this by yourself is really hard. You know, you can do it once, you maybe read a book, you realize it, you do it, it goes on for a few days. But then you slip back into your normal autopilot, and it's very hard to step back and step outside of yourself. And I had this experience with sports, with tennis, and I play really well. Like, that's my opinion of myself, right? But in practice, I play really well. But in matches, I only hit like the net or outside the lines because of autopilot. And I never had a coach who helped me with this. I had to like deal with it myself. I dealt with it with meditation, really helpful with this, because it forces you on a daily basis to realize that you have two voices in your head. So I would really recommend it to absolutely anybody. But then I realized that with my clients, I help them with this, you know, just by asking questions, just by like telling them feedback and outlining like things they're good at or things they should be focusing on. It's such an easy way for them to step outside of themselves, and it helps with motivation and with reaching your goals much faster, you know. So this is why I'm not like the purpose of this podcast is not to like promote coaching or something, but it's just that I can't help myself, you know. It's such an efficient way to
it's just about sharing the best strategies,
yeah,
right?
exactly. And honestly, because we spoke about the Python thing and marketing and everything, it's you have two choices basically. You can do it yourself, which is apparently is cheap at first sight, but then in the long run it's so much more expensive, you know, because you waste a lot of time, a lot of energy, you waste your motivation on things that you could just like outsource to the right people, you know, or you could just hire a coach or hire an expert. It's like plumbing, you know.
It's funny because like hiring a coach or expert, it's not like it doesn't mean you've succeeded. Like they're gonna work for you. It's gonna be equally hard, maybe even harder. However, like that effort will yield a much bigger result because you're actually applying that effort towards a strategy that has been proven to work and it's going in the right direction. It's not in all different ways, and there's not stop and go. Versus if you just, and I've done this, like I've had a coach for like a peak performance coach last year, and then I'm like, okay, cool, like I've learned enough. Like it's expensive. I fell in that trap of like looking at it as expensive versus like what am I getting out of it? And I'm like, okay, I'm good. So I went on my own, and like I like almost like in 2-3 weeks, my performance started like just slowly creeping down a little bit at the first, and then more and more. And then I was just spending so much energy just getting myself into like the motivated, focused state that was kind of just automatic when I knew I had like someone I was gonna show up on a call, and like I didn't do what I said I would. And that external motivation helps. But the key is really to get to a point where you feel like you don't need the coach anymore. So it's like, okay, learn as much as possible and feel like you've mastered everything you hired the coach to do. And then the goal for the coach is to make sure that they're growing at an even faster rate where there's always the next level. Yeah. Like as a coach, I'm never resting, and that's one way of looking at it, because in the end, like having a coach gives you support, accountability, and our job is just to ask questions. And when you answer those questions out loud, you basically coaching yourself.
Yeah.
Like that's because if I ask you like, well, I want to why do you want to join the gym? It's like, my goal is to get a six pack. Why? Because then I will be successful. And then like you're like, oh, that doesn't make sense. And saying stuff out loud, you realize like, oh shit. And when you hear yourself saying stuff, like you have to, awareness is the first step to change. And being aware of your internal dialogue and how you're thinking and your mental processes and the programming, then you're the one who's making the change. It's not the coach who's making the change for you. The coach is just there to help you become aware.
Yeah, to like guide you along.
Exactly. I think that's super important. Like
that is very, very important. Yeah. But so I have a curiosity. Where does okay, you're a peak performance coach. I'm a fitness coach. For me as a coach, my coaching journey for somebody, you know, it never ends because they want to be fit for life. Mm-hmm. It's not like they quit the gym and then they just do fitness on their own, because that never works for anybody. Is it the same for you with your clients, or do you have like an end goal and you tell them like upfront, this program is for 10 weeks or until you hit this goal, and then you're on your own, you don't need me anymore? Or is it like a lifelong thing? What would be like ideal for you, for them?
So for them would be, I think it depends, but in general, it's the longer you know someone, the better the trust, the better results. You know the other person, you know the challenge they're facing, and you can be more effective in terms of coaching them. The other thing is like there's always a next level. Like we initially set a goal. Cool, like this someone comes in, it's a 6-week program, we set the goal, and then before the program ends, we want to take like a look like, okay, like let's set the goal for the next level. So there's always a next level where it's going to be beyond what they are able to do currently. I mean,
yeah. So there's multiple ways of doing this basically, right? But just like an idea, the most successful people that I can think about, like billionaires and presidents and like really, really successful people, the more successful they are, the more they need coaching. I don't know if that makes sense, right? But
100%. The most successful people in the world, they are most likely to have the most coaches.
Yeah, exactly.
Like there's a saying like, if like not every athlete has a coach, but every Olympic athlete has multiple coaches.
Yeah.
Right? Because it's very, very basic. It's resource allocation. Like you have a limited amount of energy in the short term. Like over the long term, you can increase your energy like a lot.
Yeah.
But in short term, you have a limited amount of energy. And where do you focus on? Like, do you focus on learning everything there is about nutrition, becoming an expert on that? Man, I've done that. It takes years to like get really good at nutrition, and so it's a worthy journey. But then you do that, then you have to learn everything on injury prevention. You have to learn everything about like training, all this stuff, and you run out of energy.
Yeah.
So you just compartmentalize. Okay, like I get a nutritionist, I get a physiotherapist, I get a trainer, and all I have to focus on is the execution and giving all I can in terms of just executing what I need to learn, like learn the technique.
Yeah, and just trust the people in the right places to do their things, respectively, so you can be the best at what you want to be. Right?
And you have to have a good relationship, and like sometimes like the relationship doesn't work because you have different personalities. So it takes a little bit of experimentation to find where you really feel like you can be yourself and you trust the other person. And this is like one thing I wanted to share. So about 2 years ago, it was my birthday, and I had made the switch from personal training and nutrition coaching into peak performance coaching. And I kind of hit a bottom because like I didn't have any guidance. I was trying to do it by myself, and I had a realization on my birthday, like, man, you've tried this, you've tried doing it on yourself, like you can't do it. What's the next step? And I made a decision as a gift to myself on my birthday to hire a marketing coach and to basically sign up for a group program for peak performance.
Yeah.
Because I was lacking the confidence in myself and the support. And it was like the last money I had on my credit card. Like I had $200 left after that. So it was like a big decision, but like I was like, cool, like I'm gonna burn the boats, not let myself any way out of it. And the way I tricked myself, so to say, into doing that was like I knew I needed it, but the money was like a big factor for me. It was very scary, like, okay, well, what if this doesn't work out? And that was focusing, I was letting my mind kind of rule over me, and what the mind does, it's got a negative bias.
Yeah.
And to help you survive, it's always looking for what's bad, what's wrong, what's stressful, what's dangerous. So I was focusing on the problem. I wasn't focusing on the benefits and the solution. So I took my journal and I started writing down like, okay, cool. What would I need to get out of these programs in order for me to feel like confident and not to be stressed about this? And I did some calculations like, okay, cool. Like basically these programs were $10,000. I need to make 2 times that. What will that take? Okay, I need X number of clients. So I set that as a goal. Like basically, like by the time I finish this program in 3 months, the marketing program and the performance certification, I need to have X amount of clients. And that became the goal. And it's like, cool, like, so what's the ROI on the investment? And a lot of people look just at the cost. It's important to look at the return, and then look at the ratio of like, okay, what's the potential benefit, and what is it that I need to give to get there? Versus just looking at like, oh, it's so expensive, or it's gonna be so hard, or like I won't be able to eat like donuts. Cool, but like what are you getting?
Yeah.
And then you can make a better decision. You might decide, hey, it's not worth it, but at least it will be a more balanced, more logical decision where you're not letting the emotional fear take over. But it's not just a logical decision, it's also an emotional decision.
Yeah, it is.
It's like the benefits and the vision is highly motivating, right?
Yeah, and also the brain, like you said, it's got a negative bias because it naturally it chooses something that's here now, even if it's something really small, like $200.
Yeah.
And it's scared that, okay, the promise is $20,000, but it's scared to go there, you know?
It's because you're not focusing that, and I think that's such an important thing. I think one of the superpowers we have as humans is our ability to choose where we put our focus.
Yeah, but that's something not most people know how to do.
No, it's hard.
It's very hard. Man, really good talk. Like literally, I could have like continued doing this for a long time, but it's already been an hour.
We hit a lot of topics. Like any of those topics, I think we can try to talk an hour. Like the idea, I think, like reprogramming, like that's the metaphor I really like. Like I really enjoyed. I think we talked about this before. Like The Matrix. When I first watched The Matrix, was like, whoa! They just downloaded a program.
Yeah.
He knows karate and kung fu. It's like, man, if it were that easy in life, and it's not. It's a lot harder. But you can, with that as like a goal, you can get closer to it and like try different things. And I think that concept was amazing. And one thing, another thing that we're talking about before, like the power of focus, like where do you choose to give your focus? Whatever you focus on, that's your experience of life. Like if like, I don't know, there's like a garbage dump in front of you and there's a forest, beautiful forest behind, and you're just like, you wake up every morning and you're just looking that way.
Yeah.
Like life's gonna be crap. Life is crap. Like you just have to turn a little bit and say, oh. So we always have that choice to choose to focus on like what's possible versus what's not possible. You can choose on like, hey, I can change and I can do this. I can learn, versus like I can't do this. You can choose on like, hey, like I'm grateful for this thing, or I can complain about the thousands of things that are available. And this is something like, I think this is the first thing that where my self-development journey started. I read this in a book, and it's just like, it blew my mind. It's like, wait, I can choose where I focus and how I feel. Like when I was in high school, I just felt different things. I didn't feel motivated. I didn't know how to change that state.
Yeah.
And when I read this in the book, that was kind of like, whoa. And that was the first time I realized like, whoa, you can learn how to master your mind and your emotions.
Yeah.
And that's been a journey ever since, and it's something that you always get better at. And I think the gym is a really good place where you're face to face with your emotions, with your mind, and it's instant. There's no bullshit. You can't lie around.
Yeah.
You either lift the thing or you can't. And how do you deal when you can't? Do you come back, or do you not do that exercise ever again, which I've done in the past?
Yeah.
It's like, I can't do this. Okay, like I'll do something else.
Yeah, it depends on what you want to do, what your objective is, basically.
Exactly.